You know, I heard the news that former Toronto Mayor and current City Councillor Rob Ford is really ill, as in too sick even to take visitors. I spoke yesterday with his brother Doug Ford, who told me it was tough going. I didn't want to pry, but I think it's pretty serious. I hope he makes a speedy and full recovery, but I'm worried. I have no real personal connection to the man. I've met him a few times when I've interviewed him, but in a way I regard him as a friend anyways, and I think a lot of people do. Even those who don't live in Toronto, and I'm a newcomer here, I feel a connection to him, and I think a lot of people do because we've observed how he stood up to the mean kids, the cool kids, the fancy people, the official people, the media party, the left-wing activists, the people who, as he would say, were always on the gravy train. I saw how they despised him and demonized him and chewed him up, throwing aside any pretense of progressive tolerance. And it was always so personal, and it was always contrary to the left's professed values of tolerance and acceptance and fairness. They were so vicious. And it was so obvious to me and to so many others that that's exactly how they felt about me too, and to the millions of people like me that Rob Ford always represented. Example, people like Seamus O'Regan, the Liberal MP and former journalist, who demonized Rob Ford for substance abuse. Oh, and then we later learned that O'Regan himself had checked into an alcohol rehab program and demanded privacy, but not before he publicly demonized Ford again and again and again. Example, when Mary Walsh, the CBC hack, stormed onto Rob Ford's home property when Ford was taking his kids to school, demonizing, insulting, attacking. The same Mary Walsh, who is a spokesman for Bell Let's Talk, you know, that mental health PR day. You see what I mean? Now, this is not political now. It's personal. Rob Ford's sick. But he's a public person, too. If he were a leftist like Saint Jack Layton, we know how his illness would be covered by the official people. The city would be naming buildings after him. The CBC would be making loving movies about him. I suppose it's better that the fancy people ignore him now. They wouldn't be able to contain their disdain long enough to say a kind word. But I want him to know I'm on his side. So I asked his brother Doug if it would be okay if I sent Rob a card wishing him a speedy and full recovery, and if it would be okay if I called out to Ford Nation to sign the card too on the internet. Doug said it would be great, and he gave me his blessing. Well, let's give Rob ours. I'm going to drop off a card and some flowers at the hospital next week. I'd love to have 10,000 names attached to the card. If you're like me, if you want to support the man, Rob Ford, just flesh and bone, just a real man, but also if you want to support the idea of Rob Ford, the little guy who stood up for all the little guys, then join me. Click here on getbetterrob.ca and sign the card, and I'll let him know you care, even though the official people never will. That's getbetterrob.ca.